All right, we are in the theater for the AMC. I am running super late, but we are going to watch Thunderbolts today. We're going to review it. I'm recording on the phone for this part, but we'll be at the normal camera later. So yeah, I'm going to get going. I also have a bolt in my head because I'm repping Thunderbolts. Bolts for Thunderbolts. Hashtag bolts for Thunderbolts. We did it. Bolts for Thunderbolts. Okay, so quick, just immediate reaction afterwards. I think the movie's like a solid 8 out of 10. Everybody was great. I didn't really care for Wyatt Russell. I'm just hoping he grows on us or something. I don't know. He never really seemed to warm up to being a good person. But yeah, it was a great movie. Florence Pugh was great. David Harbour. Is it Lewis Pullman? Whoever the guy who plays Sentry is, or Bob. It was funny without being overly gaggy. So in that respect, I liked it more than Guardians. But we'll get home. We'll do more. And we'll go in depth. The lighting is terrible, but the bolt fell off my head. Oh my god, it left a mark. Anyway, we're gonna reattach it for the rest of the video, so let's do it together. I'm using Monster Liquid Latex, mostly because I don't really care for Spirit Gum. I had a bad experience when I was it was the 5th grade? I had to get a fake beard put on with Spirit Gum, and that just does not smell good. So, liquid latex. Even though it hurts when you get it in the hair. And I don't know, apparently it really leaves a thing there. It's a little weird, but we'll do it. I just hate getting it out of the bottle without, that's, I don't have a hairband, so this is largely going to be a pre-operation. I'm doing a makeup tutorial. This is breaking ground. Like James Charles. A little bit there. Tricaro. And now we hold. A bolt. Bolts. Fell. Bolts for Thunderbolts. Alright, trying a little bit of a cotton buildup. We'll let that dry, and we'll see how it grows. Looks a little wild. I should have tore up a little bit more of that. We're used to shit. I'm practicing for a video I'm going to release later this month, which is going to be intense. Okay, we'll let it dry. True match? I'm going to see if we can make it match my skin tone. Days to be an animal, sometimes don't. It's gonna be silly no matter what though. I just really didn't want to use scar wax because I hate the scar wax in my hair more than I hate liquid latex in my hair. I mean, kinda. That's not my wife lied. That's not. I just like it's a drastic color change. Aspects of it I do like though. I think I might put a little more liquid latex on and see if it kind of blends better. I feel like it at least flattened a little bit. We'll let that dry and then we'll put another layer of the foundation on. We'll see how it goes. I think it looks probably the best it's gonna look for my current set of skills. Oh my god, this is gonna suck. Oh boy. Alright. I'm gonna put the finishing touches on it. Blood. I'm gonna use this pointy stick to do it. Sweet, sweet, sticky blood. Let's see. I feel like it kind of works. Get closer. I feel like maybe I just need some additional cosmetic paint when I do this for my other thing to just make it match better. I can live with that. I can live with this for the rest of the video. And that ends makeup tutorials with Chris. Sorry, got distracted. Overall, I really liked it. I thought it was probably the best recent MCU movie. Last one I saw before this was Brave New World on a cruise ship, so I didn't have to pay for it. And that wasn't great. It was like the worst sequel to what was already probably the worst MCU movie. No offense to Edward Norton. Yeah, I thought the movie was good. So I just want to go over kind of the high-level plot. What I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. This is more going to be a rant, talk at the camera about Marvel stuff, because I'm excited about it. It feels like the MCU is back, baby. We're back. Marvel. cinematic universe. Bolts for Thunderbolts. So the movie starts off with Florence Pugh's character, Yelena. She's working for Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character. But she's working basically as like a gun-for-hire mercenary type. Basically cleaning up all of these things for Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. I'm going to call her Miss de Fontaine because that was like a point in the movie. So anyway, Florence Pugh's working for her, and she's essentially cleaning up evidence of Miss de Fontaine's crimes. She's like in charge of Oxcorp, and basically they were committing experiments that were literally killing people, except for one person. One very important person. And she's not very happy with her life. She doesn't know where she's going. Everything feels like a dead end. Just like kind of trapped in a rut, a little depressed, that kind of thing. And feels alone and isolated. Basically, all of the main Thunderbolts characters, with the exception of Red Guardian, Alexei, work for her. This all comes to a head where Miss de Fontaine finally has almost all of the evidence destroyed, but she wants to tie up loose ends with basically all of her little mercenary people. Yelena, Ghost, U.S. Agent, what is his name? The Captain America guy. It's not Kurt Russell, Wyatt Russell. Taskmaster, where I feel the movie really starts and we get, the Thunderbolts, is they're all sent after each other within this like incinerator room, because basically the whole thing is a trap to kill all of them. This is also where Bob comes into play. Bob, aka Sentry, aka the Void, is kind of woken up during this process. He was already in the vault being stored in like cryo sleep, I guess, or something like that. But he shows up, so the gang's all together. Ghost claps Taskmaster like instantaneously, a straight headshot. That was wild. It was great. I mean, I think everybody predicted that Taskmaster wasn't long for the world. I do think that's a little weird, especially kind of given the sympathetic backstory for that character in particular, and everything that kind of came out of the Black Widow movie. Just like, okay, we're going to kill her. Val's trying to kill them all. They turn on the incinerator. They manage to escape, and they all gradually start forming into a team. So they have to escape this kind of compound facility that they're stuck in. And eventually they do, but they're intercepted by Miss de Fontaine and her whole like army security detail people. And they sneak past them and they manage to get into your truck. And they're leaving, but then they get confronted by a guard. And so in order to distract them, Bob runs out and like tries to get everybody to focus on him. And this is where we officially learn that Bob is Sentry. So they all fire at him. He drops down, but then he gets back up and then he starts flying. And then he flies so high, explodes midair, crashes to the ground, and he's captured by kind of Oxcorp. So Yelena, John Walker, I finally remembered his name, John Walker, and Ghost all escape and basically go into hiding in the desert. They don't know how they're going to get back, but then all of a sudden, Red Guardian shows up in his limo, and he's objectively like one of the funniest parts of the movie. He was driving his limo through the desert, just screaming, "Yelena, Yelena, Yelena! That's a trap! They're going to kill you!" And it's just great. Like genuinely, the chemistry between David Harbour, I don't know the proper pronunciation for any of these things, and Florence Pugh is great. It genuinely feels like a cringe father-daughter relationship, and I hope they get along well behind the camera. And personally, because it would be very sad if they didn't. They all get into his limo and they start driving off to the desert and they just really want to get home. But then they get attacked by Oxcorp. Obviously, they're still around. And so Oxcorp starts attacking them with everything. They have like a convoy of Jeeps with turrets. One thing I thought was cool, because obviously Ghost is probably the most overpowered person on the team, given that her power set is literally the ability to like go invisible and like phase through things. They have like this sonic device that like cancels out her ability to do that. So that was a nice kind of touch, and that they didn't just like depower Ghost arbitrarily or like have her forget her powers. There's like actually a reason. And so basically it's not looking too good for them. There's a couple moments with like Alexei and him throwing like a Molotov cocktail, but that's mostly just played up for comic relief, and immediately like they can overcome the Molotov cocktail that's thrown at their Jeep. So everything looks like kind of all hope is lost. But then on like an epic, I think it's a Harley. It was a cool bike. I don't know. I know nothing about bikes, but Bucky shows up and just single-handedly destroys the entire convoy and then makes the executive decision to also take out the limousine and like flip it. This is one of my favorite like things in the movie, just from like a visual perspective of the limo toppling end over end. And he captures all of them. So you learn kind of in the background, Bucky is obviously a senator now. I feel like that was like I know I got brought up in Brave New World, and it's brought up here, obviously, is like a main thing. Because the whole thing is that they're trying to bust Val. The U.S. government is trying to bust Val, who is the CIA director, and getting her impeached is like the whole goal for the U.S. government in this movie. But anyways, that's Bucky's kind of motivation in this whole thing. Bucky captures them because they worked for her, and then they can testify against her to Congress. Then they tell Bucky about Bob. And there's like a really great, I think this scene is probably one of my favorite, where they're talking about Bob. Bucky effectively gets a call from his like informant, and he learns that they have Bob, and the entire time all of them are trying to explain to Bucky who Bob is. And it's a very nice comedic moment that isn't like overly gag driven, but it's basically everybody saying Bob like 20 times until he understands that this Bob is like super powerful, and it's very dangerous that Bob is with Oxcorp right now. Bob and his kind of mental instability. I think in the comics the character has schizophrenia, but basically he goes back and forth between having delusions of grandeur and immense periods of depression, which as somebody who goes through flows like that, it was cool to see it represented, have it be like the most powerful character probably in the MCU right now has this struggle. So it's a nice way to kind of have this character exist, but in such a way that he's not completely overpowered, because he has, this problem. And as we kind of go on the movie, we see why it's very bad that he has these powers. With Steve Rogers, it amplified his inherent goodness, and with Bob, it unfortunately amplified some of the negative aspects of him. But anyway, so I'm just going to call her Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character, but she tries to play up being like a very motherly, very caring, and like playing into like his ego for Bob a little bit, to try and get him on her side. And it works. The goal of everybody is to get to New York and get Bob from Oxcorp. So Bucky drives them in a truck van to New York. And honestly, this is probably my least favorite like thing they did in the movie, because obviously in these types of movies you have to have scenes of them bonding. So they tried to have it like in the back of the truck, where John Walker is like asking them if they like his cap. And this is my least favorite part, because it felt like improv, but it wasn't like great improv. I don't know. It didn't ring with me too well. And it just made Wyatt Russell's character come off as a little unlikable. But I feel like maybe that was the point of his character, to be just a little unlikable. At least the least likable character of the whole bunch. So I digress. So they end up in New York. Bucky, there's a discussion of like, how are we going to get into the Oxcorp building, which is the old Avengers Tower. So that finally all kind of got solved. Bucky just decides to crash the truck into the building, and break in that way. And there's a whole fight scene. The fight scene was pretty cool, but it was short-lived for a gag, or for a joke, which honestly it landed pretty well. Valerie comes over the speaker and is like, "Hey, no, I was expecting you guys. I left the door unlocked. You just come up. Don't beat people up." So they go upstairs, and obviously they're trying to find Bob. And this is where Valerie fully introduces Bob as Sentry. And Bob just kind of says, "Hey, I'm with Oxcorp. I don't want to hurt you guys. Just leave." And they proceed to fight. And this is probably one of my favorite fight scenes in the MCU. There's not a lot of like choppy cuts. And the entire time you get this sense of like everybody's in danger. There was one where I thought maybe they were gonna kill off Alexei, where he like force holds him, shoves him out a window, but then he pulls him back in when you think he's going to drop him. And everybody essentially do the dumb thing where they go one-on-one against him. Everybody like runs up in a line. So everybody gets a moment to fight Bob, with their special ability, but then he easily beats them. And the other one where I thought he might actually kill one of them was Bucky. So Bucky goes in with, his arm, and then you see Sentry grab it and it starts to glow, and you're like, oh no, is he gonna like blow up Bucky or something? But then he throws him to the side. He like rips off his arm, and then everybody leaves defeated. they're down and they're sad and they just exit the building. And this is where Florence Pugh has a big moment with Alexei, where she kind of finally unleashes her feelings. And that is a very nice, very cathartic moment for the character. And they kind of grow stronger between Alexei and Yelena. While everybody's departing in New York and they're kind of accepting their loss, Sentry, we focus back up in the old Avengers Tower. I think it's now called the Watchtower or something like that, where you have Sentry talking to Valerie, and she is trying to talk to him about like what the future is going to look like and all this stuff. And then he starts to have his moment of like grand delusion. He thinks he's a god. And honestly, he's got evidence for it. I think I think in the trailer, they even said like he's stronger than all the Avengers wrapped up into one. And then he's talking about it. He's like, hey, you said I was stronger than all the Avengers wrapped into one. And one of them's a god. So, I mean, technically he's right. He is godly. So she begins to realize that he's crazy and very unstable. And she'd been warned about this. So they built like a little kill switch. And so she goes to activate it. He nearly chokes her out. She drops the kill switch. But then her assistant shows back up and, flips the switch on it and kills him. This is where things get bad for New York. And throwing the kill switch, he didn't actually die, and instead gets taken over by his other personality, which is the Void. Design for this was really cool. I think in the comics it's a little more like, because I think he's like technically a part of Null. There's a lot to get into there. But here I think they're definitely playing it up that he's just an alter ego to Bob, aka the Sentry. He got such great power on one side, but then he also has this inner demon on the other side. He is like a blacked out version of himself. You just see like the white shine in his eyes. It's creepy. It's very subtle, very intimidating. And he starts just voiding people. So they bring in helicopters to try and take him down. And he voids the people in the helicopters. I think in the trailer when we first saw this, I think we literally thought he was like murdering people and like shadowizing them, just like reducing them to shadows. But apparently he's like transporting them to another dimension. So he starts voiding out people. He voids out a helicopter, causes a helicopter crash, falls into a crane, and then starts causing problems down on the streets. And so this is where the team gets back together of the Thunderbolts, and they're saving civilians from like falling debris, getting everybody safe, getting them out of there. And it does, what the moment in the film, what the beat of the film is supposed to be, which is they get back together. They rally and they try and save the citizenry. So all of this culminates in what is objectively my favorite part of the movie, because you see a little girl and then you think like, she obviously, there's just a little girl standing here in the middle of a street with everything going on. Something bad is going to happen. I thought she was going to get straight up clapped and voided right there on the spot, but it's a piece of debris falling. And so Red Guardian shows up and saves her. And they're like, yay, we did it. And like people are clapping. And then it focuses on the little girl. And this is where something bad is definitely going to happen to the little girl. And she gets voided. In my theater, I was expecting it. I knew something was going to happen because it was just the way it was set up in terms of the shot. My theater screamed. It was great. It was a great moment to be in a theater for this. So the Void voids the little girl, which I'm wondering, like, what was her Void reality? What was her great moment of shame? So the Void comes down and he starts spreading out his voidness across the entirety of Manhattan. So the heroes run away, but then Yelena decides that she's going to go in and she's going to try and solve it. Now, they don't know that people are getting, like, sent to another dimension or, like, whatever. They just see what's happening to people. So it's like, it's a risk. So she gets voided. And she ends up in her moment where she has to relive where she got like one of her friends killed. She tricked them to go out in the woods and somebody showed up and got her. She gets to relive that moment. We get to relive that moment a few times with her. And then she continues to go through kind of other moments in her life. So she's trying to like break through and just basically find Bob. So eventually she sees Bob in a mirror and she's able to get to him. And they talk, and then you learn a little bit more about Bob. You see like the abuse he suffered through as a kid. You see his struggles with, that stuff caused like his mental instability. But then you also see like him dealing with drug addiction. On the outside, the entire team decides to jump into the Void. because they want to help, they want to protect Yelena. And so you see this where the team's really coming together in like a meaningful way. And this is where I think they were more successful than Guardians, because in Guardians it felt very contrived. I mean, it's a movie, so it's all kind of contrived on like some level. I mean, it's not metaphorical because they literally have to do it, but literally having to face their own, and they bring it up throughout the movie, where all of these characters are kind of experiencing their shame and understanding their shortcomings and feeling like they're alone. And there's something really nice about, and genuine about, them all having to kind of deal with their own individual traumas and tragedies, break through that, and then get back together in this void reality. But anyway, so they all get together and they work with Bob and they help Bob take down his demons. So the first one is, I think Bucky just straight up punches Bob's dad, which was great because he was a real jerk, and that's putting it lightly. And then they have to fight a man in a chicken costume, which is Bob, because Bob was high on meth, and so he was attacking people in a chicken costume. All of this goes until they're finally back at the lab from where Bob got his first kind of injection of the super serum and first kind of voided out. And this is where they have to directly confront the Void as like a separate, very powerful entity. And he basically separates Bob from the rest of the team. So it's kind of this nice moment where he has to feel empowered to kind of stop him. But he eventually gets to a point where he's beating himself up. Literally, this is a metaphor. Beating himself up like to death, and the Void is gradually consuming him. So all of the other characters fight to break free of like the Void's constraints, and they surround Bob, they hug him, and they tell him he's not alone. And that's enough to kind of finally get Bob to snap out of it and realize that he doesn't need to beat himself up. He just needs to focus and be in control. And so bam, snap, back to reality. Oop, there goes gravity. They're back in New York and they've saved the day. And then they see Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character setting some stuff up. This is where I think there's like it feels like there's a weird time jump in this, because how did she have time to set this all up? There's like a full press conference that she's set up. So they chase her. She runs out in front of the press and she's basically like, hey, I want to introduce you to our new super team, the New Avengers. And then Elena basically says to her, because they have all the dirt on her, that they own her. And then that's scene. That's the movie. That's the full movie. It's the full synopsis of the movie. I really liked how it wasn't like overly complicated. I mean, it was just, I think it came in at under 2 hours, probably in total runtime of the actual movie. And I really liked how it was like, you go from point A to point B, point C. Like there's nothing special, nothing weird about it. And it's just a very direct movie, which is, I'm really happy the MCU kind of got back to that. I had to break for water. How does my bolt look? Still kind of meh. I'm going to practice this stuff. I'm going to get better at it. Because I don't want to just be a movies and theme parks YouTuber. I want to be an elevated theme parks and movie YouTuber. I really want, if we could start bolts for Thunderbolts, where we encourage people to go to the movie with bolts on their heads, I would appreciate it. I did it. You saw it in the intro to this. So I want everybody to go with a bolt attached to their head. You don't have to do this. I purposely didn't try to do anything like this because I didn't want to freak people out. Because I don't want to make people absolutely uncomfortable in a movie theater. I'm willing to be silly, but I don't want to make people uncomfortable, you know? Hashtag bolts for Thunderbolts in the comments. Do it on Twitter. Do it everywhere. Instagram posts. Make it happen. So the movie, obviously, I already said it, 8 out of 10. Best thing I've seen in the MCU since Guardians 3, which is high praise. Very high praise. I really loved Guardians 3. I actually think the Thunderbolts is like I have nothing against James Gunn. I want to start off with that. I just think Guardians was too jokey. I think it had kind of the classic MCU problem where every joke felt a little too jokey, not like natural. It like wasn't relying on the humor of the moment. Like I think the telltale thing was like when they have their like we're coming together as a team moment in the first Guardians movie, and like Rocket has to sarcastically say, "Look at us, a bunch of assholes standing in a circle," or whatever. This movie didn't have that problem. So I'm gonna go into my list of things I didn't like, things I liked. Starting with what I liked. I will end with what I liked, because what I didn't like is infinitely shorter. What I didn't like Wyatt Russell is John Walker. Actually, I don't have a problem with Wyatt Russell. I've seen him in other things, and he's fine. I just didn't like John Walker at all. I guess it's kind of the point of like you're gonna have to not like some of these characters. I feel like he had the worst jokes. Like the jokes that weren't at his expense were the worst. There's a great joke with Bob where Bob starts like John Walker says he's Captain America. And Bob starts laughing, and John Walker's like, "Why are you laughing at me being Captain America?" And John Walker's like, "You're Captain America, but you're kind of an asshole." And that was the funniest thing related to John Walker in that whole movie for me. Can't think of anything else I didn't like. It's just how it is. Everything else was either like fine or I liked a lot. On to the list of things that I liked a lot. 1, this photo of Julia Louis-Dreyfus and the Rizzler, because solely for the purpose of I don't think they understand who each other are at all. You have Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who is like a classically famous person on Seinfeld as Elaine. And then you have the Rizzler, who's kind of this, he dressed up as Red Guardian and the embodiment of like modern fame, of like being a TikTok star. So there's no way they have it. And like, he's so young, there's no way he understands what Seinfeld is at this point. There's no way she knows who the Rizzler is, or like had her like assistant explain who the Rizzler is to her. So I just like to imagine that the Rizzler is just like, oh, she's an actress in this movie, and that she's like, this is probably a Make-A-Wish kid or something. And that brought a smile and some warmth to my heart. The other things I liked, the humor. I feel like everything was very natural and funny. Nothing felt like it had to be forced. John Walker was the only thing that ever felt like he was like forcing jokes. It was genuinely funny. I genuinely laughed multiple times in this movie. 3, I think the overall kind of metaphor, I like that this movie tried to be an elevated superhero movie. I think the thing where it gets old, and especially like in the marketing for this movie, you could see in the comments on Twitter where people were seeing the Void and what he could do, and they're like, well, we just have the heroes that punch stuff. And I think that's like a problem in superhero movies, or like what obviously this genre could just be like boiled down to, of like, we're going to use our powers, we're going to use our fists, we're going to punch the problem to death. But I like that this movie wasn't about that. It was about learning to live with yourself and overcoming the things you don't like about yourself, and overcoming past trauma and tragedy, and trying to, get past that. Obviously, the whole Void is kind of like a metaphor for that. They had to literally fight through the worst moments in their lives to get, to Bob, to help him. And they came together, and I like how the metaphor even continues for this, where it's like, obviously on a personal level, you got to overcome some of your stuff, but you should seek community. You should find people like you to help you overcome things. I'm tearing up. Am I? I feel like I'm cheering up because it's like a powerful moment of this character who's very clearly mentally distressed. And hasn't had community, hasn't had a family that backs him, but now he has this mini family that helped him. And especially like in the end fight, where literally the sheer act of trying to punch your way out of the problem was causing him to fall towards the Void, and the only thing that saved him was that community and them coming together and hugging him and reminding him that he's not alone. I thought it was a very touching way to approach a superhero movie, especially when there's such a clear power differential. Like, they're obviously not going to win in a normal fight against the Void or Sentry. So I like that. That was a good subversion of everybody's expectations. Well, we probably expected it, because there was no way they were going to beat him in a normal superhero fight. I'm sure I could think of more things I liked, but this is already getting to be a very long video, so I'm going to leave it at that. It's an 8 out of 10. Please go see the movie. If you can, glue a bolt to your head. Bolts for Thunderbolts, baby. If you saw it, did you like it? Comment down below. Remember to comment for the sticker giveaway. I'll pick a random comment in like a week. I'll pick like 10 random comments. I have a bunch of stickers. Let me show you. I have a lot of them. I basically created a little character, and then I created variants of him. So this first variant set is in honor of my Kang video, where I was dressed up like Captain America, is the Penguin as Captain America. He's got a little shield. He's beat up. He's looking bad. I also have another one to celebrate the Wand video. These stickers are a little smaller. When we got Harry Potter Penguin. So they're cute. I love them. I want to give them away. If you see me in the theme parks, feel free to come up and ask for a sticker. I'll try and have them on me. I want to try and have different variants for kind of all the videos going forward, or at least like the major things, because I think that's really fun. And it's just a way of saying thank you for the support. I know obviously, the channel's not huge, but we did have like a pretty big growth moment with the from the Mardi Gras video. And so it feels like things are catching on a lot faster now. I see a lot more people are watching and returning to watch, and I just want to say thank you for doing that. I really enjoy making these videos. I like doing silly stuff. I like being silly on the internet. It's nice to feel the love, and so I want to give some love back. So leave a comment. I'll comment on your comment if you're picked, and we'll figure out how to get you a sticker. I will see you guys in the next one. Bolts for Thunderbolts. Okay, should I take it off? I'll take it off on camera. This will be my post-credit stinger for the video. Oh, ow, ow, ow. That was cool. Oh, it's gonna suck. I'm gonna get all that off. Bye, everybody.